Hi guys, Pat with RAVEK, and in this installation video, we're going to be installing the plug-and-play Apex turn signal kit on this Can-Am Defender. So, there's quite a few steps involved here, a little bit of wiring to run, but if you follow along with this video, we'll make it easy. So let's get started. Okay, the first step is to determine where we're going to mount our control module. All the wires are going to lead to this module, and this also needs to be close to our power source. Now, on this Can-Am Defender, the power source is behind this panel here. And so first, we're going to pop this open. Let's pry it from the bottom and then tip it down. Behind here is our keyed power source. There's positive and negative. So we're going to take our power harness for our plug-and-play turn signal kit and our two ring terminals, a positive and a negative. And we're going to install those right here. That's a 10mm nut. So you want to use a deep well socket. Nuts have been removed. Negative ring terminal on and the positive, and simply reinstall. Now, once I get these tightened up, this power harness is going to get routed back behind this dash. We'll access an area over there, and that's where the control module will be located. All right, those are snug. We're going to take our power harness. This is the horn relay and our connections that we're going to eventually make to our controller. And just tip these back in here for now, and I'll grab them once we gain access behind the dash on the passenger side. So I'll show you that next. All right, the next step is going to remove this dash box insert. To do it, there's one push pin in the back right there. There's going to be one Torx 30 head here, and then on the outer edge, towards the middle of the vehicle, one more right back there. Remove those three, and we'll be able to slide this box out. Behind that is where we're going to mount our controller. All right, fasteners are removed. This will just slide out of the way. You can see already in the back, the line I snuck through for our power harness. This is going to be our horn relay. Just let that sit back there. Our controller, I'm going to eventually mount back here on this panel, probably two-sided tape or something like that. All of my wires are going to come to this location. So our next step is to start routing wires to this. We'll start at the front, we'll get our Apex lights mounted, run those extension harnesses back to this area, and then work our way to the back of the vehicle. Eventually we'll come up here, make all of our connections, tidy up our wires, and we'll be ready to go. So let's get started on the front. Now, with our control module located behind the dash, our next step is to figure out where we want to mount our Apex lights. The beautiful thing about Apex lights is the versatility. You can mount them so many different ways. Let me show you how. I'm going to show you the 3 different ways to mount Apex lights to your vehicle. Roll bar mount with a strap, flush mount with adhesive, and flush mount with a screw-in. Now, to mount your Apex lights to a tube or a roll bar, I'm going to show you the steps. And notice we get your Apex lights flat back. Included in the kit is this beveled back. We'll want to attach this to the Apex light. You can orient your wire on either side, depending on where you're mounting it. And this beveled back, it'll only go on one way. It is tapered. And you kind of feel it lock into place. When it's in place, grab your short panhead screws and secure it to the back of the Apex light. Now, when you mount an Apex light to a round tube, we recommend using a combination of the strap and the two-sided tape. So to attach our two-sided tape, there's a non-branded side and a branded side. The non-branded side will go against your Apex light. But before we do that, we want to make sure our surface areas are clean. So you're going to first grab your alcohol wipe, and we're going to give our Apex light a quick wipe. And you'll also wipe whatever surface area you're going to be mounting the light to as well. We'll let that dry a little bit. You grab your primer wipe. You're going to repeat the process on our Apex light and also on the surface area you'll be mounting it to. Now your surface areas are ready for maximum adhesion of this two-sided tape. Again, blank side against the Apex light. What I like to do is just start the back end a little bit. This will allow me to get it lined up and not have it looking wonky when you're done. So if it's looking good, you can just peel back that backing tape and then give it a good squeeze. Now I'm ready to mount this light to our tube. Now with my backing tape applied to my beveled plate, it's time to mount the Apex light to my round tube. I'm gonna mount it up high on this tube right here. And just how I applied the backing tape to the Apex light, I'm gonna do the same process to the roll tube. So get it started. I like to always work top down. Peel back a little like this. Now I'm gonna go just below this well, but wherever you're mounting it, get it started, and then grab that backing tape and peel back. That way you can keep it straight all the way back. Add a good squeeze. And with round tube mounting, although this 3M two-sided tape is extremely durable, I mean, you can see that. For added security, we'll take our straps, go through the slot, around the tube, strapped in place. Now my Apex light is secured to the roll bar. All that's left to do is plug it in, see if it works. Nice. And we'll check our flash modulator. Beautiful. It's that easy, kids. 500 times brighter than your standard Razor light. Now all it's left to do, come back in with some zip ties, route this wire so it's not touching anything hot or anything moving, and we're good to go. All right, here are the steps to screw mount your Apex lights to your vehicle. Now we happen to be using a Polaris Razor, but the process is the same no matter your vehicle. Once you determine where you're gonna mount the Apex light, first step, clean the surface area. So we got our alcoholic swab. You'll notice, looks like we've already had something mounted here. That's because we have. We've been durability testing these Apex lights on this Razor all season long. And so we're gonna pretend those holes aren't there. Next step, take our primer pad and prime the area. Then we'll go to our two-sided tape. We recommend, again, two forms of fastening this. You're gonna use the tape as well as the screws. Nice thing about the tape, these holes are gonna serve as your pilot holes to drill through the material. Remember, non-branded side will go against our Apex lights, so the branded side will go against the vehicle. Make sure it's oriented correctly. If you want your lights, the wide part at the top, wide part of the tape should be at the top, and vice versa. That's how I'm gonna mount this one. Our surface area is clean. Again, I like to start at the top. And if you want, you can place your tape on your vehicle and make a few marks so it is square or lined up exactly where you want it. There we go.
make it easier so it's nice and square. Now, this will serve as your template to drill your holes. Our holes are already there, so we'll pretend I drilled them. Next, take your Apex light. Your 11/32 inch or the larger hole will be where you route your wire. The smaller hole, the 1/4 inch, will be where you secure it with the fastener. So the tolerances are just right. Push our wire through. There we go. Once that's looking good, I can peel this tape off. And a little piece there in the way. Get it lined up. Now, what I like to do now is grab my fastener and route that through the back side before I put the light in place. It just helps me see everything that's going on. I like to get my fastener through the hole, and that's going to help guide my Apex light onto the two-sided tape. Otherwise, if you put your light down on the tape before your fastener's in place, you may have struggle get it started. Now, my fastener's started. I'm on the tape. I'm square. Give that a good push. Now I can grab my 4mm from the back side and secure it. And remember to put your fender washer on the back side. Give it a few turns, get it snug. That'll cinch our Apex light down to that two-sided tape. And we are ready to plug it in, give it a test. Nice clean install means that's not going anywhere. We'll plug it in. Nice. We have modulator in line. Got the flash. There you have it. Surface mount Apex lights with the screw-in method. Now, another way to install Apex lights is a flat surface mount using just the two-sided tape, no screws. This is a quick, easy way to do it. If you got a place where routing the wire, you can kind of hide it nice, makes sense. It's a perfect way to do it. All right, to do this, pretty simple. First thing you want to do is you want to take your alcohol wipe, just clean up the light assembly itself, and given that it's probably new, it's pretty clean. And then you're also going to want to take this alcohol wipe and clean whatever surface of the vehicle you're going to be mounting it to. All right. Once that's done, you're going to take your promoter or your primer wipe. This is going to, as it sounds, promote better adhesion. So do the same to your light and the same to your surface area. Once that's done, you're going to thread your two-sided tape through your wire harness here from the Apex light. There's two holes you can line it up. You'll see on your Apex light. One hole is for mounting, one hole is for the wiring harness. Again, your tape is tapered. It'll only go on there one way. And you'll want to use the non-branded side against the light as such. So I'll peel back the backing tape, stick this to my light, peel the tape off again, adhere it to the vehicle. And it can be a little tricky with the wire in there. What I like to do is get it started like this, peel back a portion of it, get it square. And then kind of rip it right around that wire coming from the Apex light. And get it lined up, give it a good press, and now we are ready to install this light on any flat surface you choose. And I'm going to position it right here. I'm going to run the wire down below the fender lip and connect it to the harness. So before I do, I want to take my alcohol wipe. You clean up the surface a little bit, especially if you got like Armor All or something on there that you've been cleaning your vehicle. Now to apply the Apex light surface mount to the vehicle, I'm going to again put it right here. I've cleaned this surface area with my alcohol wipe and my primer. I've got my two-sided tape attached to my Apex light. I've peeled back vacuum tape part way so I can handle it on the backside without getting all sticky. Get my light lined up where I want it. It's centered. Once it's all in place, I could peel the rest of the back and tape away. My tape removed. Give it a good push. And now, before I button everything up and get my wires routed cleanly, I think it's time to give it a test first. As AC/DC said on Let There Be Rock, let there be light. 300% more light to be accurate. That is gonna look sick. All right, I chose to mount our Apex lights right on this bumper. I think it looks pretty good. Our next step is going to be routing our extension wires from our Apex lights to the controller. Now to do that, I'm going to go through the grill here and then up underneath the cowl, I'm going to remove this top panel on the driver's side. To do so, there's 2 push pins, one here, and then below the fender on the back side, there's 2 T30 Torx fasteners in there as well. So I'm going to pull those out, pull this off, and we'll get our wire routed. All right, with the fasteners removed, this top fender just slides forward. Remove that. Now, given that I've mounted my Apex lights on this bumper, I also want to remove this grill. So this just pops off, like so. I've already routed my wires, my extension harness wires. They're behind here. They'll plug into my Apex lights. So from there, we came up behind this and just below where the panel I removed is. Coming down around this pillar, and then there's a small grommet, and you're gonna push your wires through that grommet, and that'll give you access behind the dash. Now, while I was doing that, I also wanted to route my horn extension. This is also included in your kit. This comes from the controller to where you want to mount your horn. I'm going to mount my horn right up under here to an existing fastener, so I also routed my horn extension wire that same route, and here are my 2 ends to mount to my horn. So I'm going to mount my horn right now, and I'm going to use this existing fastener under here. It's a T30. You can mount it anywhere you wish. It could be up here, on top of your roof. It's really up to you. Just need to route this extension harness to that location. This is a nice spot under the hood, out of the way. To make these connections on your horn, they're just spade connectors. It does not matter which side they go on. Just needs to complete a circuit. This is nice and flexible, so you can bend this, twist it, turn it, etc. So you have a lot of options for mounting your horn. We could have put it here with another fastener, but I'm going to use a factory fastener here and secure it in place. Now with that mount, you can bend it a little bit so it's not rubbing or touching anything. I've got my connection there. So our next step is going to be to route our wires to the rear of the vehicle. So we have 2 rear extension harnesses as well as our brake indicator line. Now we want to run our rear harnesses and our brake indicator line from the control module to our rear taillight housings. Now to do that on this Can-Am Defender, and this happens to be a crew, we're going to want to go down this center area. So we got a few panels to remove. First one is this battery box panel. There's 2 Zeus fasteners. Let's give those a turn. This is going to pop out. Next will be these center panels. There's 3 push pins on this panel, and since this is a crew, there's another panel up front. So we'll pull these out. My push pin pliers. Slide that one out of the way. And now I'll go up front and do the same. Now this is where we're going to route our wires
I've already went ahead and got them routed here. They follow basically the factory wiring harness right down the middle, go up in behind. This happens to be an HVAC unit. So behind that, and then ultimately up into this area here, we're gonna mount our controller. So up underneath to our controller area, 3 lines, remember. We have our left and right taillight extensions, and then inside this sheath, and you don't need to use this sheath necessarily. It comes in the kit. It's to put your brake indicator line in. I like to use it, just adds a little extra protection, makes it look clean. Follow that all the way back. Here's where my lines are. Follow that back, right alongside the battery, and then back into the engine compartment. All right, now here are my 3 lines here underneath the box. I've routed them up alongside that battery box from inside the cab. Where I'm gonna run these is gonna be right along this frame rail. Follow this factory harness. Under the box, to the back of the box, you can see where the factory line is here. Now it's important to remember that of these 3 lines, each is labeled. One is gonna go to your right housing, one to your left housing. The indicator line needs to go to your left side, to the driver's side. That sends the signal to the controller that you've applied the brakes and applied the brake lights. So I'm gonna get these routed. Again, I like to put everything in here loose, maybe just 1 or 2 zip ties, make all my connections, make sure everything works, and then come back and tidy it up. All right, to make our connections to the taillight housing, we have to open up the housing. We've got to pull it out of the box. To do that, you're gonna want a small 1/4-inch drive with a 10mm deep well socket. We need to remove these 2 bolts. They're recessed inside, and that'll allow us to pull the housing out and make our connections. I also brought along, it's always nice to have a little magnet, because pulling these bolts out. All right, I got both of my bolts removed. This taillight housing is just gonna slide right out. Next step, you wanna unhook the factory harness from the housing. Now in your kit, there's gonna be 2 of these, we call them TY harnesses. Now in a turn signal kit, these harnesses are slightly different from left to right. You'll notice this one has several more connections. This is the one that you're gonna want to put on the left-hand side. The other one is gonna go on our right-hand side. The way this harness works is it simply snaps between your factory harness and the housing. So I'll do that first. Now off of this TY harness, you'll notice several other connections. 2 of those connections, I've got my wires routed from my controller. They're tucked in behind here. Are going to be from our right rear extension harness and then our brake indicator. These are all labeled as well on the TY. So here's where my extension harness will go. And then this one again is our indicator. This is a spade type connection. In your kit, there is some heat shrink. So if you want to really make sure that this is well protected, you can add that heat shrink on here as well. You're like, hey Pat, but what are all these other extensions for? Well, glad you asked. These 2 spade connectors here go to another piece that's in your kit, and that would be this lighted taillight, license plate mount. And there's an extension for that. The owner of this vehicle didn't want to include this, but if you want to, you mount this wherever you choose, and then run the extension lines to these 2 spade connectors here. The final connection, this one here, is if you want to add accessory Apex lights. And you can purchase those lights, of course, on our website at ravek.com. So these connections are made for what we're going to use. I'll slide this housing back in, secure it. I'll go around to the other side and do the same thing with this TY connector. All right, now it's time to move inside the cab. And one of the most important pieces to install, of course, are our rocker switches. Included in your kit is one for hazard and horn, and then the other one, of course, for our turn signals. Most side-by-sides have switch holes available in them. In this Can-Am Defender, there's a couple under the left-hand side as well as in the center. This owner wants us to install them over here, so we're going to access this, feed our lines through, and then of course over to the controller. So to access these, it's actually pretty simple. There's a little box down here I can pull out. And once I get in behind, we can pop out these panels. Lots of extra cable for these rocker switches, so you can mount them anywhere. I'm going to undo this, feed the line through over to the controller, and then we'll pop these into place. All right, I've got my lines routed over to the controller. All that's left to do here, just simply push these in until they snap. I like to push in the center of the rocker so you don't damage the switch itself. And another nice little tip is to mount your turn signal probably on the end versus in the middle, so it's easy to access. Just want the logo up, and there you go. All right, our final connection under the dash here before we get to the controller is to route our 2 lines for our indicator lights. What that'll do is actually display the turn signal indicators into the dash cluster. So to do that, we need to get the dash cluster out. On this Can-Am Maverick, pretty simple. Lift up that door and this whole assembly actually snaps in place. So we kind of pry up on the top, lift out, and then tip down, just like so. And I'm going to unhook. I've actually already routed. These are my indicator lines coming from the control module. What we need to do next is to install these DIN pins into your harness. Now to disconnect the harness from the gauge cluster, first thing you want to do is see this little red slider. You want to slide that back. It's already in the back position right now. And then this tab here, you squeeze down and then pull. All right, our first step is we need to remove this keeper, this white little piece of plastic. You want a couple precision screwdrivers for this. There's a small slot on each side. You want to insert your screwdriver into the slot, grab another one, and just pry it up. You'll do the same on both sides. That'll release the keeper and allow you to remove it. Set that out of the way. Now, when you're doing this operation, these are the DINs that are already in place. You'll see some extra spaces, those dummy plugs. We want to push those out. And we're going to push out number 7 and number 17. If you orient the controller, or the connection, excuse me, with the red tab up and count over 7 from the back side, that'll be 7 and 17, both counting up from the left. Of course, refer to your instructions. There are diagrams in there as well. Push out the dummy pins. Remove those. The right indicator will go on the red clip side. So if you're looking at the connection, red clip up, that right indicator is going to go to the top row. That is number 7. I'm going to push it in. Feel it kind of get snug, and then you can look on the back side and make sure it's in as far as the other DINs. Sometimes you got to give it a little bit of gentle push in the back side. Make sure it's all the way through. There we go. And now the left one, we'll do the same on number 17. Again, it's always important, we mention it, to disconnect your battery, especially for this step. It's just a good safety procedure, period, whenever you're doing electronics. Get that pushed in. Give it a little bit of an assist. There we go. You want those pins to be all aligned at the top, even with one another. And once they are, we're going to grab our keeper and clip it back in place. Okay, our DINs are in flush with the existing stock ones. Just take our keeper and we're going to snap that back in place. Push it down to here, click, and now we can reinstall the gauge. There you go. All right, our space behind this pull-out glove box is starting to fill up. I've got all of our wires now routed to this area, our controller as well. Eventually, when I get all my connections made, I'm gonna mount this controller back in there, probably with some just two-sided tape. One other piece that you need to mount close to the controller is this item that was on our power harness. That is your horn relay. Little tab there where you can use either an existing fastener somewhere back there, or just put a self-tapper in, or some two-sided tape. And I think I'll just do some two-sided tape. I like to just let it hang loose, make all my connections, make sure everything works, and then come back in and tidy everything up. So our next step is to make all of our connections and test the system.
All right, to make the connections to the controller, I thought it would be easier to show you out of the vehicle. It's kind of tight confines underneath there. It's really simple because the controllers are all labeled. The wires are color-coded, and on those color codings also where they go. Front right, front left, rear, horn, etc. So all you need to do is plug these in. It's a true plug-and-play system. Last thing you want to connect will be your power, and from there, test the system. So I'm gonna go inside, make those connections, be ready to light it up. Well, all my connections are made. I got the controller mounted up under the dash. All that's left to do now is to test it. Turn on the key. Nice, got my Apex lights. Nice white light. Try our hazards. Great, the indicators are working in here. Turn signals to the right and to the left. And last but not least, the horn. So I'll grab my side cutters, my zip ties, make sure my wiring is routed properly, not touching anything hot or anything moving. I hope this video was helpful. Remember, you can visit our website at ravek.com for the Apex turn signal kit and a whole lot more. Until then, see you on the trail.